Hello. Thank you for showing up today. Welcome to the Why You Crave Food Noise, GLP-1, and Your Craving Style. I'm Dr. Carrie Anderson. So today you're going to learn a little bit about your own craving style, the body science behind our cravings, and how to find peace with our cravings through what I call the cravings calm method. What is food noise? It's persistent, it's mental, and it's a physical pull toward food. You may have constant thoughts about food, a feeling of being driven to eat or feeling unsatisfied after eating, um, knowing that you're not physically hungry, but still really feeling a need to eat and always thinking about that next opportunity to eat. So it really is this persistent chatter that goes on and this deeply physical draw toward eating. Some people feel and call this emotional eating as opposed to physical hunger, then there's emotional hunger or emotional eating. And I want you to listen to me really clearly because now that I know and have studied so much about the physiological, neurological aspects to what draws us toward food, sometimes I feel like if it's reduced to just emotional, it's kind of like being gaslit, really, because today I want to take a look, a deeper look into the mind-body connection and what's related to what's a mechanisms and the biological systems that draws us to food and eating. And the other message I really want you to hear throughout this presentation is you're not broken, right? I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to help you to understand yourself a little bit more and and to be empowered with knowledge about how your body works and for you to more deeply understand your own mechanisms. Um, and your body has learned ways to protect yourself. It's learned ways to um, keep you alive, right? In terms of the survival mechanisms. And so it's just about understanding you more. And if willpower worked, you wouldn't be here. Many of you have tried plans and instituted rules and tools and have been good for a long time, but it wears you down. You get what we call diet fatigue, and you begin to unravel, especially when your nervous system is feeling stressed and activated. These cravings or food noise, they get louder when your system is stressed out and afraid. And you may not even recognize that it's happening because it's just so automatic and normal for you. So I want us to really think about this on a deeper level and explore these survival mechanisms that's worked against you and thwarts your best laid plans. Because willpower breaks down under stress and biology just takes over. We have a thinking brain and we have a survival brain. How our automatic or autonomic nervous system is surveying our world and body, these external and internal threats continually throughout the day, will determine who's in charge at any one moment. Is your thinking brain in charge or is your survival brain in charge? And I think you'll find that willpower lives in our thinking brain and our survival brain is more automated. So I'm going to introduce you some science now and explore your personal craving style a little bit later in this presentation. See, not all cravings come from the same place. This really is a depiction of what we call the gut. And the gut is often thought of as really our intestinal area of our belly. And yet, the gut really starts at the mouth and chewing, Okay. And it goes all the way down the esophagus to the stomach, which is kind of lies there under the diaphragm. It's got all these other organs that help participate in the digestive system, like the liver and pancreas. And then is that weaving of the small intestine, the large intestine, or the colon, and down to where we excrete. So this is a whole pipeline, if you will, all the way from the mouth to our bum. Then I want to talk about the nervous system and the vagus nerve. And it looks similar because it starts in the base of our brain in terms of the brain stem. Um, the vagus nerve is a cranial nerve, but it merges all of the sensory and all the nerve endings of what we call cranial nerves, and it flows down. And there's a big network near our eardrums, in our throat and vocal cords, down and connects to our lungs and heart, down to our diaphragm and our breathing. It really is connected to our breathing, and that's why we can calm the body down so much with breathing activities. But then take a look at that last third of this nerve. When I thought of a nerve like the vagus nerve, I thought of one continuous nerve, but it is branches of nerves, and it connects to all the visceral organs in our body and all the way down to this gut. And we call this the second brain, right? And so it's all weaved into all those. Think about when we saw this, and I'm going to take you back real quick. Look at the intestinal system in that last third of the body in terms of the small intestine and the colon. That's what all these nerve endings in the vagus nerve is all connected to. Okay. So within this, this is how our nervous system is connected to our gut and our digestive system, and how they all weave together and communicate. So think about this. It's really, we have our brain, and then we have our second brain down inside of our gut. And it affects everything from thinking to appetite, satiety, inflammation, immune function. It's complicated, really, but it does matter. And I want all of the people I work with and my clients to understand why they crave, because this intervention can be so personalized based on what your craving style is. And that's what the Cravings Calm method is all about. So let me even go deeper into the cellular level. So at the cellular level, the mitochondria, that little green guy there, it's the powerhouse of every cell, except red blood cells, but every cell has these mitochondria, these little guys work very hard to convert our food into energy. And its instructions actually come from the billions, those little billions of these little red gut bugs. And they communicate through the gut brain superhighway called the vagus nerve, which is that yellow nerve that branches out into the rest of our body. And it's a communication superhighway. And, whether it's your metabolism, your nervous system, your gut, your brain, or the food and body belief systems, driven maybe by a history of being caught into that diet culture, we're going to figure out what's wrong at the core and heal that instead of just chasing symptoms. And food noise is just a symptoms. We're going to look at the root cause and cellular healing. So let's talk about the gut microbiome. These are all the bugs inside us that influence much of our experience. And the gut microbiome which is all the little bugs that communicate with the vagus nerve. I'm trying to always keep that in a forefront of your understanding the context of this. But that is where we create GLP-1. Okay. And so I'm going to be getting into that a little bit. That's where we create insulin. This is where the inflammation takes place, the source of our metabolism, right? Breaking down our food, our mood, our stress response. That all happens in the gut. Okay. It's a very active and is so many things are taking place in the background. I'm going to go into that today. So also the biome is always changing, right? It can be changed just the same as our brain and our thinking is neuroplastic in the sense that it can change and mold and learn new things and learn our neural pathways can take different routes. We're not static and once we think this way or once the pathways are going this way, that's the way that they always go. No, it's very dynamic. And we have a lot of influence on the gut microbiome. The food that we eat, the nutrition that we take in, and taking antibiotics, for instance, can kill good and bad bugs. But the things that we take in that are good for us and grow healthy bacteria or good bacterias, they actually can also influence it. So your biology is very responsive. So let's talk about GLP. It's produced in the gut and it's a natural hormone that regulates appetite and blood sugar. And what happened is scientists were able to explore this and understand more about this natural hormone. So, of course, what they did, and decades ago, this GLP-1s have not been just a new thing, right? Decades ago, they figured this out and they've been giving it in different forms in smaller doses to those with diabetes for years. It wasn't until recently that the mega doses of this chemically created hormone has been on the market, right? And has been used for weight loss, obesity, and now anybody, I mean, you can see an advertisement today that just says, you want to lose that last 15 pounds, microdose. Just fill out this form online and we'll send it to you. Just pay us. So yeah, it's got kind of crazy. But let's talk a little bit deeper in terms of what this hormone does. Why is it so magical? And why is everybody paying all this money for it? Okay. So, what it really does is this natural hormone, it regulates appetite and blood sugar. Okay. It makes us feel sooner, feel fuller sooner and longer. Okay. It does reduce blood sugar spikes, and that's because it enhances insulin production. Okay. And the so many people that might have what we call insulin resistance, what happens is that the insulin is not getting to where it needs to go. It's not being unlocked and let into the muscles so that we use that our blood sugar. What's happening is insulin is instead of doing that, it's shuttling it into storage. And we all know that where that is, especially those that have insulin resistance, and we shuttle it into storage a lot. It's being stored in all those visceral areas in our thoracic around our organs, and that's what they call visceral fat stores. And that is what makes us heavy around our middle. And that is the most dangerous storage of fuel or fat of any of it. So, but what I want to say is GLP is one of those naturally made hormones that helps you to send messages through that information superhighway in the vagus nerve. And as we do that, it will make a signal that, okay, we've had enough to eat. We don't need any more. You're good. And to keep that up longer, so we're not constantly with the food noise and craving food. It also reduces blood sugar spikes and helps shuttle that blood sugar into the muscle where we want it, the skeletal muscle. And it reduces that urgency to eat and food noise or food preoccupation. And that because it does affect us in what we call those dopamine driven areas of the brain. So in essence, it slows digestion, transit time, which is the amount of time it takes from here to your bum in terms of to digest your food, turns off the desire to eat, enhances insulin production, reduces sugar spikes. And the other thing it does, it's very interesting, is they have found that it coats the lining of the gut. And why is that good? It's protective of the small intestine and the gut so that we don't get, and you may have heard this term, leaky gut. And as particles or toxins or things come outside of that tube from our mouth to our bum, and it gets into the other aspects of places in outside of the GI system, what happens is it causes more inflammation and threat to the rest of our body. And that's why, and much of what happens when we have autoimmune disorder or we have celiac disease or something like that. Okay. So it's a cool thing that our body already makes, but there some people it's just a little more compromised in that area because the more compromised that we are in terms of insulin resistance, inflammation of the gut and whatnot, those signals get blocked, and the vagus nerve is from a stressed perspective, it's not signaling like it used to. So we may not be producing the GLP naturally as much, and we might not be signaling that the bacteria that talks through that hormone may not be signaled as much as either. So we become compromised. And that's why largely the people that are compromised that have insulin resistance or they have diabetes, prediabetes, maybe some inflammatory problems, maybe they need a little help from the GLP drug to get things working and moving. But let's shift fear for a little bit to natural ways to support GLP-1. Okay. So there are certain strains of bacteria that they've been studying. It's very fascinating. There is a certain strain of bacteria called Akkermansia, right? And it's we can actually learn from really reputable types of probiotic factories. Um, you can actually take this to help enhance the natural production of GLPs, but you can also enhance it by feeding it prebiotics, which is fiber-rich foods that grow, and it especially this hormone loves polyphenols, and that's a type of fibrous or nutrient, a whole food nutrients like that come from blueberries or cacao, which is the natural form of cocoa, green tea, olive oil, red onion, spices. In fact, we go through a whole list of ways, things that we can eat to enhance our gut bacterium that produces GLP in our programs. But we can actually enhance that without having to take the artificial forms or the medicinal forms of GLP. And many of the clients that I work with do both, right? They're planning, they don't want to be able to have to use the GLP forever, and take a shot forever. Um, so that GLP drug mimics the body's natural hormone, which stimulates specific microbes in the gut. Um, And it works really well for some people, especially those with metabolic problems or diabetes. And so, because that they've been so depleted, to kind of stimulate that GLP signaling. Um, but here's what I want you to hear in this presentation. There are so many other influences to our cravings. This is only one pathway of cravings. We have a lot of other influences to food noise and cravings. In fact, that's why I want you really to look at this because many of the people I work with and treat, they are on GLPs and they still have breakthrough cravings. Why, Carrie? Why am I still craving? Why do I still have this pull? I thought my food noise was going away. Well, because there's only really one area of the cravings that the GLPs help. I want you to look at some of the other drivers of cravings. So with the craving style, um, if you have not taken my online craving style quiz, please do that. In my newsletter, I offer a link to be able to do that. You can go, excuse me, you can go to my website, foodbodyandlove.com. Again, it's written out food, body, and A&D. Love.com, and there's also on the homepage there's a place to take the cravings quiz now. So it really, the rest of what I have to say today could mean so much more for you if you know what kind of craver you are. You could probably guess as well, but if you really want to take that little quiz, it can help you. So let's look at I have broken this down based on my years of experience of working with people and understanding the physiological, neurological, and biological aspects of cravings. I've broken this down to four different styles. Okay. So if we look at the four different styles, there's the calming craver, the seeking craver, insatiable craver, and the rebound craver. So what style are you? I'm going to go into all four of these styles. Okay. So the calming craver, food becomes a nervous system regulator. And what your body might be saying is, I feel safe, soothed, and settled, right? So that's why I'm going to draw you toward eating more and giving you food noise because for me, when I do get the reward of eating, especially certain types of foods, right? I feel safe and soothed and settled. Okay, I'm going to make it. I'm going to live. So, why this happens? Because we get overwhelmed. Our body wants to create this collapse of, right? Food becomes the calming agent for relief. So how do we deal with this? What is the doorway to help those people that are calming cravers? Well, the program goes into so many different things that we can do, but essentially we're trying to bring the body back to safety and regulate the nervous system. Okay? So the other type, and by the way, the seeking craver and the former or the calming craver are the two most predominant types that I see in my programs. So, what's happening with the seeking craver? Well, basically, this is a hit to your brain. Your brain is seeking stimulation and pleasure, something more. It gets bored. It loves shiny objects. It's like that's the seafood, eat food is kind of like, oh my goodness, look at that pie, or oh, I can't believe it. I just went past the golden arches, or something like that. And your brain goes, okay, guys, let's go for it. So it keeps pulling you toward that. That's food noise or cravings. And it's physical as well as mental, but it pulls you toward that pleasure. And why does this happen? Well, it's triggered a neural pathway. You could not even be hungry or not still hungry. This could be you could have finished eating And all of a sudden, but I want a reward now. This is the people that love the sugar or something after a meal. I want to top it off. I'm still not satisfied. Your tummy may be full, right? You may be satisfied on a physical hunger, but this is all brain, baby. And I want a reward and now. So what do we do with that? How do you break that code in terms of removing that trigger? Um, and so that's really learning to create a safer environment for you in terms of your environmental triggers to help replace those environmental triggers with other hits and rewards. Um, and so we learn how to work with our dopamine. We learn how to calm down those triggers. And so really lots of things we can do in terms of our internal environment and our external environment to kind of dampen down that process. So the third craving style is the insatiable craver. It means I eat, but I never feel satisfied. And what happens is that we really have had a biological disruption of satiety signals, the stress chemistry, or the metabolic dysregulation that I spoke of in those that are that have metabolic disorder or dysfunction. And so these would be, if you are solely an insatiable craver, these would be some of the types of cravers that the GLP-1s could be most helpful for. But at the same time, like instead of having to be on that shot forever, it's like maybe we can leverage both. And as we're learning to from a biological perspective to decrease that food noise and whatnot, that we're at the same time we're working on helping to enhance your biological cravings and to dampen those down. So let's see. So moving on to the rebound craver, and the rebound craver is, and I see a lot of these as well because I have been in the eating disorder treatment world for years and years. Um, and the rebound craver typically comes out of a history of having an eating disorder, or a history of being caught in diet culture and weight bias and whatnot, that we've been brainwashed. And so what happens is we the mechanism of this is I lose control after trying to be good. I try to be good for so long. So why does this happen? Well, food restriction, the feelings of scarcity, all or nothing mindset, being in a restrict, binge, shame cycle, body rebellion when you feel unsafe, right? It's that idea that through all the years I've created a nervous system and thought process is that food's not safe, right? And I have to fear it and I can't let myself have it. And so the calming doorway there is repairing trust, heal through predictable feeding, and just really to untangle that food noise from that has developed over years of a restrictive mindset. And we do that. I mean, that's stuff I've been doing for decades. Um, I'm now going to show you something that's going to maybe blow your mind. I'm not going to go into too much of this, but because it's mostly we go into depth with this in the Cravings Calm method program. But this is a chart that shows the neural system of cravings and food intake. Okay. And so the one thing I want to point out more than anything right now is that little in this system has to do with conscious feeding behavior. Okay. So the red aspect is the conscious, voluntary behavioral control that we have and the external stimuli in our smells, sights, hearing, taste that prompt us, those are all things that are can be controlled. Those are conscious and voluntary, okay? From our environment to the way that we think. All the rest of this, all the pink and the purple and the blue on this that's depicted is all unconscious. Wow. So, hey guys, don't feel bad. There's some mechanisms that are going on behind the scenes, things that you are not even aware of that drive you to eat, okay, and cravings and food intake. And some of those match up with those different types of cravings and styles, craving styles. And that's where I understand this. So there's the cortex, which is the thinking brain, and then we have the learning and memory and reward processing. Okay. And that's more in the habits and the seeking cravers. Okay. And then we have other types of signaling from the vagus nerve and the nervous system, right? That's saying, I just don't, this is that subconscious behavioral, automatic, endocrine that says, I'm going to feel hungry when I'm stressed out. And I'm going to see this reward that goes on deep in my nervous system when I start to eat foods, especially certain types of foods. I calm down. Okay, and so that's the calming craver. And then we have those the hormones that make us feel full and the hormones that make us feel hungry, which also include insulin because we get into that chasing sugar. So then we get in more of that metabolic or insatiable craver. That this is just the way our metabolic system has worn down in terms of its own regulatory systems, and we become more influenced by that metabolic process. And that's the insatiable craver. And then, of course, then we deal with the eating disorder, which has both cognitive and nervous system processes. So, all of this, the whole point for you is that we can change. Remember the plasticity I was telling you about? We can change the subconscious systems as we learn how to shape our nervous system, our behavioral habits, and shape our biology. So there is a path, and understanding with compassion is the first step. So I want to just tell you, thanks for hanging in there right now. We're getting ready to wrap this up, but it can happen to all of us, even me. So I had done my history is that I was in this field. I had done all the right things. I had gone through cognitive behavioral treatments. I even ascribed to the all foods fit model, the intuitive eating, body positive. I was doing all of it. And I followed my own treatment advice, and yet I wasn't getting better. In fact, I was actually getting metabolically unhealthy, lots of inflammation. So, this really wasn't about weight and size. It was about cravings and what was happening to my body that caused stress. I had a lack of sunlight, highly inflammatory food choices because I was making all foods fit for me, a lack of exercise. I had some mold toxicity in terms of environmental exposures. And I was getting a full-blown metabolic injury that was occurring. And that was genetically the way that my body was going because I have in my family history lots of diabetes. But I just said, I don't like the way I feel. I have a lot of pain. Um, I don't feel good with all these cravings. So I set out to make a radical change. So, with research using a different model than what I had been taught in the eating disorder world, I didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater, but I started integrating a lot more in. to understanding that using this different model, one that was body first through the lens of fear and safety, I began to heal, and my cravings began to resolve, and that's how I came up with today the Cravings Calm method. And I feel better, and I am out of any danger right now for any metabolic disorder. I healed. Um, so, when the body calms down, cravings quiet. When the body calms, cravings quiet, right? Creating safety in the body is not simple. Um, it's not easy, but it's a lifestyle that you can create for yourself and it'll work for you. And knowing this and actually living it are two different things. There's so many people that come to me and say, Carrie, I know what to do. I just can't put it into place, right? But that's why I created this structure with coaching and practice. And I can show you. I can show you how if you follow me. Um, so if you, I'm going to share with you briefly a little bit about the Cravings Calm method, what it is, and how very little in the year that we actually open up the cart and let people enroll in it because it's a quarterly program. It runs 10 to 12 weeks. So we only open it up for a couple weeks between our cohorts. So the Cravings Calm method is about regulating, rewiring, and restoring. Okay. So it's where our nervous system science meets personalized, sustainable food and body confidence in a 10-week plus program. We understand the connection between our stress responses, our cravings, and our eating habits. And what I especially do is I individualize this so that you have a personal plan that works in the real world, even on those hard days. And so I'm going to give you a couple more testimonials. This is a gal that has been through the Cravings Calm a couple different times, has worked with me, and she just says, I love the blend of science and nervous system insights, but she really likes the real life tools that help her break that cycle. She connects with me and that, that I'm relaxed and realistic and I have my own lived experience and it makes everybody feel so completely understood. We do a lot of small habit shifts, community support, weekly coaching, and it really helped Danae with her anxiety and dropped her anxiety, increased her confidence. Okay, it transformed how she eats now, thinks, and feels. And then I have several therapists and dietitians around the nation that really love what I do. And she says, Carrie's compassion science is really, and science is really a way out. She likes my style and that, Carrie's like a trusted guide that takes your hand and says, let's do this together. Anyway, so I really appreciate Beth's endorsement there. And so I did want to give you the registration link here. It's very simple. It's cravingscalm.foodbodyandlove.com. And there's a couple different pathways for payment for this full 10 to 12 week experience. You can do it in 3 monthly installments, or you can pay full price and get a full 1 year subscription to a safe and sound music therapy, which is a $2.99 value. And I really love to help guide people through that annual or yearly subscription that they get free with this program. And then I wanted to send you a bonus because if you want to register for this workshop, which really it only comes in a small window every year. If you use Prof 199, which is professional referral 199, you can get a coupon. This coupon code will get you another $199 off. So if you register at cravingscalm.foodbodyandlove.com, you will get it's really a full $500 value off of the program. So you can literally get this in terms of a value of 50% off. So that's a lot of coaching and a lot of therapy that comes with this in terms of years of developing this online program. And so you can show up and let me guide you through this. So the registration is open right now. So if you go in and you purchase this program, and let me tell you that the cart closes on April 15th. We only have a week left to get into this next cohort, right? And then it's going to close again until July. So this is a really good time to do that. And so I know you're busy, but we also have replays. So if you miss anything, but it's a great opportunity. So I'm going to just open this up. Hey, if you have any questions after this workshop, no problems. You can get involved by just emailing me, Carrie at My Eating Doctor or Carrie at foodbodyandlove.com, and send your questions to me, and I will get back to you. I will even do a consult with you, a Zoom meeting or a phone meeting, to see if you have any questions, if this is a good fit for you. So thank you for listening to me. I know it's been a bit 50 minutes. Thank you for your time.